50 years ago, NBC aired a new episode of the classic Star Trek series called The Devil in the Dark. These are my honest opinions about it. This is one of the scary stories. The teaser sets up the tone perfectly. We see a guy getting killed by a weird monster off screen, and we all know what this episode will be about. The story takes place on a mining colony on Janus 6. Some creature started to first melt their equipment and later even melt their miners. The victims look like they were immersed in a powerful acid. The Enterprise came there to help to find and kill the creature so that the mining procedures can continue safely. Spock thinks it's interesting that the attacks started after the miners started just for fun, destroying the silicon spheres which they found absolutely everywhere. He thinks that the mysterious killer is actually a silicon-based life form. Dr. McCoy starts to argue with Spock, claiming that silicon-based life form is not possible, but they suddenly have a much bigger problem. An important part of the colony's nuclear reactor goes suddenly missing, and everybody will be dead in a few hours if they don't do something. Kirk calls a bunch of red shirts who for some reason survived this episode, at least most of them, equip them with Type 2 phasers and orders them to seek and destroy a silicon life form. Spock, the logical scientist, doesn't want to kill the creature because he thinks it might be the last of its kind, but Kirk wants blood, just like in a bunch of previous episodes. Kirk and Spock search for the creature separately. Kirk gets almost killed after a roof near him collapses, but he continues to another cave in which the tunnels are joined. Spock should follow him there. Kirk arrives to the cave, but he's not alone. The creature joins him. Now something strange happens. Despite previously Kirk wanted to kill the creature, and Spock wanted to just capture it, now, when Kirk faces it, or her, face to face, he suddenly doesn't want to kill her. But Spock for some reason changed his mind. Isn't it strange? Why such a sudden change in motivation? Anyway, after Kirk notices the creature doesn't attack him, even though they shot it in their previous encounter, Spock joins telepathically with the creature, and we get now the big twist, which wasn't actually a twist at all. The creature, named Horta, is indeed silicon-based. It can move through solid rocks, just like humanoids can move through air, and she is the last living creature of this kind. Every certain number of years, all of the creatures die except one, who becomes the mother of the new generation. The spheres, which the miners destroyed just for fun, are actually her eggs. So she had no problem with the humans being on her planet. However, when they started to destroy her eggs and therefore practically killing her children, she simply wanted revenge and protection for the few surviving eggs. That's why she started to kill the miners. And now, after she got shot, she will die. There will be nobody to protect the eggs, so the whole race will die with her. Fortunately, Dr. McCoy manages to save her, and when the angry miners storm there ready to kill, Kirk calms them down, and they make a deal. They leave Horta and her children alone. They will make new tunnels everywhere they will want, and the miners will simply collect all the Pergium and all the other stuff and be disgustingly rich without too much work. After they agreed, Horta returned them their missing pump, and we get a happy ending when we are informed that the little Hortas were born off screen and are already making new tunnels. Gene Coon was a savior for Star Trek. After John D.F. Blake left because he hated the fact that Gene Roddenberry was constantly rewriting scripts, which were, according to Blake, perfectly fine, Star Trek needed a new producer and a new lead writer. Gene Coon was called, and he was exactly that type of person the struggling show needed. His stories were all great. He improved the Star Trek mythology. For example, he created the Federation, the Prime Directive, or the Klingons, and brought a lot of humor into the show. A fine example of the humor is the famous ending scene, where Kirk says to Spock,
"I suspect you're becoming more and more human all the time."
To which Spock replies,
"Captain, I see no reason to stand here and be insulted."
There are still some problems with the script, although not that many. For example, why does the Horta steal the pump from the reactor? I know it makes sense from a story point of view, but still, this means that the Horta knew that the missing pump would destroy the reactor and the air-breathing creatures will have to leave the planet. But that would also mean that Horta somehow got hold of the technical plans of the reactor, which were probably in English, and quickly studied them. Also, how did the Horta actually steal the pump? Everything she touches gets destroyed, whether it was solid rock, doors, or human bones. Why was also not Spock hurt during the physical contact? Or are only certain parts of the Horta's body producing the powerful acid? Does she spit the acid? If so, how is it possible it can move through solid rock instantly? That would mean that the whole body has to produce the acid. I feel like some of the elements of the script needed one more rewrite based on the notes from their scientific advisor. There is also a section where we see just Captain Kirk's back, and it's clearly not William Shatner. If you belong to the people who research behind-the-scenes stuff, or at least watch the bonus features on the DVDs and Blu-rays, you probably know that during the filming of this episode, William Shatner's father has died. So Eddie Pesky, who usually played Lieutenant Leslie, took his place, and they later intercut his scenes with random close-up shots of William Shatner. A personal note, I much admire Shatner for delivering such a great performance after his father died. When my parents died, I wasn't able to work for several days, and it took me several months to be able to do my job properly. And he is great both in this episode and the rest of the season. He also said that Leonard Nimoy really helped him during this time, and that's when they stopped being just colleagues who liked each other and became close friends. Until Leonard Nimoy died, back in February 2015. One thing I want to talk about are the repeated themes. You surely noticed this is the second episode in which they have an alien killer, which kills people and is the last of its kind. The first episode in this season, called The Man Trap, had basically the same premise, but it had a salt vampire, not a silicon-based life form. Also, we have seen Kirk wanting to frantically kill the enemy, while Spock was against it, only to Kirk changing his mind in the last act. The episode I'm talking about was of course Arena, where Kirk first wanted to kill the Gorn, but then when he got the chance he decided to let him live. There is also one funny thing about the power of human mind. I always remembered this episode as being violent and bloody. I was quite surprised to find out that they actually show nothing and all the deaths happen off camera. It's funny how your memory can play tricks on you. Also, when I was a kid, I thought the Horta looks quite scary, but for an adult, the creature reminds me of a huge pizza. But as I said many times before, all the problems caused by their low budget and limited technology will not affect my final rating. Speaking about which, it's time to give you one, isn't it? Despite all its problems, I really like this episode. It has the 1950s B horror movie charm. It has also humor and morals. And it's just a joy to watch. I would give this episode 9 out of 10. This is one of the episodes where I wouldn't mind if they reworked it with modern effects and modern, more gory film look. But it was, of course, just my opinion. What do you think about this episode? Do you love it or hate it, or just think it's one of the average episodes? Feel free to write your opinions down in the comment section, and if you like this type of videos, I do them every week, 50 years after the episode premiered. So meanwhile, you can check any other videos on my channel, and feel free to come back next time. By the way, next time means in 2 weeks. For some reason, 50 years ago, they had a week gap, and the following episode, Errand of Mercy, was aired on the 23rd of March. So, thanks a lot for watching, and bye.